Howdy, and welcome to episode 32 of T-Shirts and Shawls. I'm Karen, and today is Thursday, June 29th, 2017. And I'll just say the past 2 weeks, there's a lot that has been happening. So I'm going to do a little recap of Houston Fiber Fest, which was this past weekend. And then I have a little bit of exciting personal news. So we'll go ahead and jump in. For today's shirt, this is a shirt that I know you have already seen. So it's the Nitty Kitty shirt. And there was actually another shirt that I wanted to wear instead, but I searched my closet, I searched my stack of shirts that I don't wear as often, but that I don't want to get rid of, and I could not find this shirt. I know that it had a hole in it at one point, so I'm not sure. Hopefully I didn't get rid of it, but anyway, there, I'll show you what just kind of went across the screen in just a second. But I wanted to wear a different shirt. Couldn't find it, so I picked this one. The shirt that I wanted to wear, hang on just a second, I'll be right back. So the shirt that I wanted to wear was the one that had the little kitty song from The Big Bang Theory. So soft kitty, warm kitty, little ball of fur, happy kitty, sleepy kitty, purr, purr, purr. And the reason for that is because, well, let me tell you the story. So if you've been watching the podcast, you know that late last year we had 3 cats, and they were all seniors, ages 16, 14, and 12. And the 16-year-old Merlin we lost around the beginning of November, and then like a month and a half later we lost Guinevere, the 12-year-old. So we just had Sam. And Sam is a very social cat. He definitely likes companionship. He doesn't like to be alone. And we felt really bad that he was alone, but we were not ready to jump back in with another pet right away. We also were talking about getting a dog. So things are kind of put on hold. Then this past weekend, we went to Houston Fiber Fest, and we stayed at the house of my husband's aunt. And she has a dog and 5 cats. So 5 cats, 2 are older cats, and 3 are young. They're not kittens anymore, but they're still very young cats. And Luke had a blast playing with them all weekend. In fact, he asked one of my husband's cousins if he could take one of the cats home. So we really felt that Luke, and we talked to Luke about, do you want a cat? Do you want a dog? And he said he really, really wanted cats. So, got home, and on Tuesday, Luke and I took a little trip to the animal shelter. Just to look. Just to look. Yeah, we didn't just look. This is Eva. And she has a companion who right now is kind of hiding. He's a little shy, and we've named him Wally. So if you're familiar with the movie WALL-E, so WALL-E, Wally is a robot, and Eve, EVE, is another robot. But Wally calls Eve Eva, and that's how Luke also, oops, she's gonna jump up on my neck. And that's how Luke also refers to her. So it's Wally and Eva. So that is what we name the cats. And if Wally comes out of hiding, sorry that you're getting the back end of her. If Wally comes out of hiding, I will put him on camera as well. But this is Eva. She is definitely very playful, very adventurous. As you can probably tell, Wally is, so far he's very cuddly, but he's also very skittish, and he is hiding at the moment. So I didn't want to pull him out. Anyway, so after spending the time with the cats at the aunt's house, I realized that we were ready to add some animals to our household. I guess I hadn't realized how long ago it has been. It's been over 6 months. I guess for Merlin it's been like over 7 months even. So I think that it was time, and being with the other cats really kind of helped show that. So these are the two that we picked out. Again, I'll try to get Wally on camera in a little bit and show him off. So they were not together in the shelter, so we're also getting them adjusted to one another. At first, she didn't seem to be really keen about him, but this morning she seems to be a lot better. They've been kind of around each other. Sam is still a little hesitant, so we're making sure to give Sam lots and lots of love and attention so he knows that he's not been replaced. And he's hissing a little bit, but he's watching and getting a little closer and a little closer. And so I think that we just give it time, work on it. Again, make sure that we give Sam lots of attention. I think we'll be good. Yeah. So I will probably have cats in the video going ahead in the future, because I'm thinking that that this little one is definitely going to be adventurous and exploring. So you probably will get to kind of watch them growing up on the podcast. And I'll probably also post pictures on Instagram now and then. I won't post tons of pictures, but I will probably be posting pictures on Instagram every so often. So if you're on Instagram and you don't already follow me and you want to see both yarn and now kitten pictures, I am Karen Dawn Knits on Instagram. Anyway, we'll go ahead and continue on with the rest of the podcast. I found Wally. This is a little later. I finally found him. I haven't edited the video yet, so I thought I would record this little segment showing you Wally. Like I said, he's a little shy, but he's pretty, and he's so snuggly, and you gotta see his back. He's so snuggly, and yeah, he was hiding. I found him in my dresser. So definitely we'll remember that hiding spot to look for him if we can't find him again. So this is Wally, and then the other kitty was Eva. I did have a shawl picked out to talk about today, but because I want to make sure to keep an eye on the kittens, and I also have plans for lunch today, I'm trying to keep this podcast episode on the shorter side. So I decided that I wanted to, I would skip the shawl segment. And because I know it was a shawl that I had quite a few things to say about, so I will save that for next time. And now we are in what I'm knitting. So I am still working on Rice Fields, the brioche shawl. I am getting much closer to being finished. That's how much yarn I have left. I need to weigh it to be sure, but I think I have 4 to 5 repeats left on it. I really want to finish it by the end of the month, because this is my Q2 knit along shawl. But I'm thinking with the kittens, I don't know if I can finish it by the end of the day tomorrow. We'll find out. I didn't really get any knitting time last night or this morning. So I'm not gonna worry about it. If I miss it, I will finish it shortly thereafter, and that's okay. Oh, there is something else to talk about. That's right. I knew there was something about the shawl I wanted to say. I made a mistake. It was a minor mistake that I tried to fix and turned it into a major error. So let me see if I can find, ooh, maybe I can't find, oh, there it is. Okay. So, yeah, I think that's it. So basically what happened is I noticed as I was knitting that one of the gray sections, so on this side, so the gray is the dominant side, there was a stitch that had been split. And so I think this is a 3-ply yarn. One of the plies was poking out. And it was poking out quite a bit, like to the point that it was very obvious and it was bothering me. So I got the brilliant idea, hey, I'll just drop the stitches down. It's only about 3-4 rows down. I'll just drop them down, fix that split stitch, and that'll take care of it. Well, this is brioche, and I'm not super experienced in brioche, and so yeah, that was an adventure. I realized as the stitches were dropping down that I didn't know enough about the fabric of brioche to really know how to pick them back up. to be able to get both the yarn over, because if you haven't worked brioche before, basically you have a pair of stitches. It's a yarn over and a regular stitch that you work together. And I could get the stitches up, but I wasn't sure how to get that yarn over that was supposed to go with it up. So I tried a couple of different times and kind of made a bigger mess. There was like an actual hole in the fabric, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? And then I remembered that over on my Facebook group, Build Your Knitting Skills and Confidence, one of the members, Elizabeth, had posted a video about how to fix a mistake in brioche. And it was when a slip stitch was basically on the front of the fabric. So there would have been like a pink stitch that was coming over the gray stitches. But she did the drop down and then go back up method to fix that, and so I paid really close attention to how she was going back up and tried again, and I was much more successful. And I can tell, let me find it again, hang on, I can tell where that oh, it's on the other side, where that area was, and now I've knit quite a ways beyond. So there's this slightly elongated stitch right here, so that's where it was. And there was a huge hole. There's still a little bit, I don't know if you can see the hole, still a little bit of a hole in there, mostly because on the back side there was one pink stitch. I don't know, again, if you can see that. So there's one pink stitch that didn't get added to its gray stitch. So there's a little gap there, but nothing near where I had when I was originally trying to fix it. So it's at the point where I think it's okay, and I'm moving on. I thought about actually ripping back those rows, but especially with brioche, it's doable, but a lot harder because you don't want to lose any of those yarn overs. So yeah, I think ultimately I fixed it and it turned out okay. But it was definitely some hair-raising moments for a little bit, and I'm glad that was before we got the kittens. Because then I actually had some time to sit down and work on it. So that also kind of delayed me a little bit. I probably could have finished another repeat in the time that I took to fix that mistake. Maybe next time I'll just let the split stitch stand. It really did bother me though, so I'm glad that I fixed it, because I think ultimately it looks less obvious than the original error that I was correcting. So anyway, so that's my main focus for what I'm knitting. I also have the 2 pairs of socks that I've been working on, and honestly, I do not remember where I was on these socks when I filmed last, but this is the second sock for this one. This was the Houston Fiberfest exclusive colorway, which did sell out. It sold out like midday on Saturday. So this is my second sock. And I did work on this, I think maybe I was around here, and I worked on this at Houston Fiberfest a little bit. So I'm probably another inch or 2 away from the heel. And so that one is getting some progress done. And then I have the socks that I'm knitting from the Mustache Yarns, Dark Side EPV, extended play version. So that's the one with the gray and black and rainbow. Again, I don't remember where I was in the last episode, so that's where I am now. Still quite a bit to go before I get to the heel. And apparently Luke is coming in. He's finished his breakfast. Say hi.
I actually didn't because I'm super cold.
He's super cold. Anyway, so that's what I'm knitting. I'm going to deal with Luke for a minute, and then I'll be back to talk about a couple of other things. So a little bit of recap for Houston Fiberfest. Basically, this was the 3rd year of the show. It was the 2nd time that I went. I was a vendor last year as well. And last year, the show was a day and a half. It was for vendors. We set up Friday morning, and then the vendor hall opened Friday afternoon. And that was not a great experience, I'll be honest, because it's a lot of work to set up the booth and to set up, just be honest, get really hot and sweaty, and then have to turn around and basically be very social and talkative and whatnot. It was challenging, I did bring a change of clothes last year. But anyway, this year they actually expanded the festival, and so instead of a day and a half, it was actually 3 days. So we set up on Thursday, and then the festival was open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And that works so much better from a vendor point of view to have the setup not be the morning before we open. So that was really nice. Jarrett and Luke came down to Houston with me. We took separate cars because I can't fit all of my stuff in my car, much less 2 passengers. And in fact, all of the yarn rode in Jarrett's car. Eva wants to jump into my lap again, so let me grab her. So we drove down there, and Jarrett helped me get the stuff from the car to my booth, which was also really, really helpful. And I got set up. I had a corner booth. It was the first time that I've had a corner, so I was trying a new arrangement, and I've got to say, I really, really liked the corner booth. I really liked the booth setup. So it's hard to get corners sometimes, but I'm going to at least ask for corners in the future and see what happens, because I really liked the way the booth layout turned out. It worked really well for like traffic flow, and really getting. It seemed like I had a little more space. Strangely, it seemed like I had a little more space, and I was able to hang all the yarn. At DFW, not in a corner booth, I actually had some yarn in boxes on the floor because I didn't have space on the grid walls for it. And here she is back up here on my shoulders. I guess that is going to be one of her favorite spots. So anyway, so it got set up. Went back over to my husband's aunt's house, relaxed in her pool for a little while, and then got up on Friday morning ready to start the festival. And Friday was a really good crowd. There were quite a few people that came through. Some people that I've seen before, some people that I've known on Ravelry, a couple of test knitters came by and showed me their projects from the Parliament of Cows test knit. So that was super fun. One of them I posted on Instagram. So if you follow me on Instagram, I hope you saw that. And then I saw lots and lots of new people. People got really excited about the yarn, the names. That seemed to be a big draw, which I love, because that's one of the things I really enjoy about the whole Roundtable Yarns thing, that I'm able to share the stories, because gosh, I love those stories. So that was fun. I got to see other people who had knit other things of mine, both in my yarn and in my patterns, which is always the best part, seeing what is made out of the yarn. So that's lots of fun. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that particularly stuck out on Friday. Maybe it doesn't matter necessarily which day anything happened. Saturday, unfortunately, was really rainy. And although we were indoors in a convention center, so once you were inside, the rain didn't affect you. But I think that it may have affected some people driving, because the roads in Houston, when it's rainy, especially right around the convention center, there's a lot of construction going on. So I'm pretty sure it was not a very pleasant drive, and that may have kept some people at home, because it did seem like Saturday was not quite as busy as Saturdays usually are. But it was still a really good show. Again, I got to see a few more people, and so that was really, really good. And then Sunday morning is usually, to be honest, Sunday mornings are usually dead times. That's when the vendors shop each other, because there's very little traffic elsewhere. But Sunday morning down in Houston was actually really busy. Perhaps it was the people who had stayed home on Saturday because of the rain and they decided to come on Sunday. I'm not sure, but it was actually a really busy Sunday morning. I wouldn't say like compared to Friday, it was busy, but for Sunday morning, it was pretty busy. So that was nice. So all throughout, I got to show people the new book. So I had the preview copy, and had my yarn tasting so people could come and actually try out the yarn, and knit a few rows or crochet. I also had crochet hooks set out. I was next door to Diana Couture. So the one, now I can't reach for the bag because if I sit up, the kitty will fall. But the one who did the special bag for Houston Fiber Fest, and then my colorway was based upon the colors in her bag fabric. So she was next door to me, and our checkout stands were like right next to each other. There was a grid wall that separated us, but in any slow times we got to spend some time chatting. So that was nice. And there was one thing in her booth that that I could see like perfectly from my angle at her grid wall, that I kind of stared at all day Friday and Saturday, and finally Sunday morning I decided to buy it. I will show that to you in the What I'm Stashing section. So she sold out of her special Fiberfest bags, which is great. She actually had quite a few of them, so I was really happy to see that they all found new homes. I sold out of the exclusive self-striping kind of early afternoon on Saturday, which caused a couple of issues. There were people who had wanted it who missed out because they didn't excuse me, they didn't get it in time. There was one person that saw me knitting on the sample sock, or I guess the second sock. And she really wanted to just buy the sample sock and go ahead and kind of take what I had there, and continue working on the sock. That's how much she really wanted that colorway, and I felt bad that there wasn't any more for her. But we had fun kind of chatting and having her trying to convince me to basically give her the half finished sock, or sell her the half finished sock. Let's see, other little highlights. I will talk about the stuff I bought in What I'm Stashing. There were some vendors that I only get to really see at festivals, that I got to kind of catch up with a little bit. So that's always nice to see. The Threads and You vendor, Shelly, she travels like 11 months out of the year. She goes to many, many, many more shows than I do, and she likes to bring Texas dyers with her. So I know that she gets yarn from Brazen Stitchery, and a few other Texas dyers. So at the end of the festival, she did pick up some of my yarn. So if you are not local to the area, you should check out, I actually usually have it linked on my mailing list, my newsletters, and check out Threads and You to see where she's going. And she has some of my yarn with her. So that's a way that even if I'm not personally able to go somewhere, my yarn can. And this time she mostly gets Merlin and Camelot, and this time she decided to try out some Avalon. So Merlin is the self-striping, Camelot is the fingering weight merino cashmere nylon, and then Avalon is the DK weight merino silk 50/50, and it's really, really soft and brings a nice shine to the color. So she decided to give that a try. So if you again are at a place in a festival where Threads and You is, be sure to check out her booth and you will find some of my yarn there. Gosh, I'm trying to remember if there are any other, I know there are other highlights. There's a crochet instructor, so a crocheter, and she taught a class at the Fiberfest, and I am so sorry, I don't know if it's Tamara, but she goes by Crafty Escapism on Instagram. Anyway, so she was teaching a class on crochet socks, and we had met last year at the Houston Fiber Fest, and so it was really nice to catch up with her. She showed me she had made basically little baby socks to teach in the class, and so it was really, she's such a really sweet, nice person, and I enjoyed chatting with her. And she said her class went really well, so that was good. I probably should have written down some notes so that I could remember other things. I'm sure there's stuff that I am forgetting, stuff that's probably a lot more interesting that I am forgetting. But I think I will go ahead to What I'm Stashing and talk about the couple of things that I bought at Houston Fiber Fest, and then do a little bit of what I've been watching lately, And that probably will take us through the rest of the podcast. Okay, so before I get to the Houston Fiberfest stuff, I did have one thing arrive in the mail since the previous episode. So this is the Visions of Fiber Club from Elemental Fiberworks. She's trying to crawl up my back right now. So anyway, so Elemental Fiberworks, Visions of Fiber Club. This is the one where she's using the NASA posters as inspiration, not the chair. So this is the poster for this time. And if you know anything about me, these are totally all my colors. So definitely the fiber is just right up my alley. Really, really like this one. And it is a blend of BFL and silk. I love spinning BFL. Adding silk to it makes it really nice. So I'm super happy with this one. Really enjoy, I think I will enjoy spinning this eventually whenever I get around to spinning it. So that was exciting to get in the mail. And I believe, I should keep track, I believe that is the 11th shipment out of 12. So I think there is one more. Maybe I'll do something. A couple of the bases are the same. Maybe I'll see if I can do some combo spins and do some of them together. And maybe I'll just, plan out my next spinning projects will be these, the 12 shipments from the Fiber Club. Who knows? I'm thinking about doing Tour de Fleece, which starts, I believe it starts July 1st, just to kind of get back into a spinning habit. We'll see how that happens, and we'll also see how the cats affect that. So whenever I'm at Houston Fiber Fest, I usually try to walk a different path to go back and forth to my booth when I'm coming in or when I go to the bathroom, so I can kind of see some of the vendors. Since I don't really have time to browse a lot, is kind of those just in passing, seeing what catches my eye. So one of the things that caught my eye, apparently I was in a Harry Potter mood over the weekend. One of the things that I caught my eye was this project bag. So it's a pretty simple fabric, but I really liked the fabric, and it's a zipper bag. Even though I know zippers and knitting don't always get along, I do like the zipper bags. So it's that, and this was from Casey's Pockets to Go. So she has, I don't know if you can see that. I'm sorry, the lighting in here this morning is terrible. It's actually a cloudy day, and so I'm trying to let in some natural light, but it doesn't seem to be helping. But anyway, Casey's Pockets to Go, the person who runs that booth, super nice person. So that one had caught my eye. I was passing each day, and Sunday morning I went, and this was her last one, so I managed to get that. Very happy about that. And then I already said that as I was, kind of sitting in my booth, I could look into Diana Couture's booth, and she has some needle case. So she does bags. She has some needle cases that she's done, and some of them are for double point, some for circular, and some for interchangeable needles. And I saw this case for interchangeable needles, and I don't think you'll be surprised that it caught my eye, because it also is Harry Potter. So it's got this neat fabric that has all the symbols, and then you can see it actually better on this side. This has names of various characters. So basically how this works is, so there are these two outer pockets, and on this side you have little storage pouches, little narrow ones for the needle tips for an interchangeable set, and on the other side there are the bigger pockets for the cables. And then on the inside there are also the same type of thing. So on one side are the narrower pockets for the needle tips, and on the other side for the cables. And then there's the Diana Couture label in there. So I do have cases for my interchangeables that I actually got custom made. They have cat fabric, and I do like those. And I didn't need a new needle case, But I did get one more set of interchangeable needles, and it doesn't fit in my my old case, and so I think that's what is going to go in this case. I may kind of mix them around a little bit to see like which are the ones that I use most often. Will probably go in that case, since that's a little easier. My other case is a little bit bigger and bulkier, so that one might be my kind of go-to needles that I use. So I really like that, and I'm glad that I got it. And then I've shown you the yarn already, and I've talked about this. I still have not cast on, but doing a shawl for my mother-in-law for her birthday, which is in August, so I really need to get busy on it. I've got some hand spun out of a really soft yellow, because she looks good in yellow. And I found a shawl pattern, which it's something about kryptonite. I will look up the name, and when I start the shawl, I will be sure to tell you guys what it is. But it has options for beads, and I looked through my bead stash, and I mostly seem to be buying beads that are in the purple and blue and green, which none of those quite looked right with the yellow yarn. So I did have a really small bag of some gold beads that I thought would work, but they were definitely not enough for the shawl. So I thought maybe I would pick like one area of the shawl to put beads on and not do the whole thing. But there was a booth at Fiberfest called Gilding Lilies, and they have beads. That was basically what they did, and it was really nice. She said that what you can do is you can mail in a yard length of your yarn, and they will string beads on that yarn, that yard length, and mail it back to you, so that way you can see, like if you say, this is a yellow yarn and I want like yellow and gold beads, they'll put their yellow and gold beads on there, like one bead of each color, and send it back to you so that you can actually see what the beads look like on your yarn, and then you can order the beads that you pick out, and that way you're not having to guess based on, especially if you're ordering online, you don't have to guess which color is going to work best with your yarn. I didn't have my yarn with me, and I didn't want to wait, and plus since it's hand spun, sitting in a yard of hand spun, I want to make sure that I use up as much hand spun as possible, and I want to make sure I don't get short on it, especially since it's something that I can't get more of. So I guessed, and the cat's in my lap, so now I'm not gonna go over to the yarn, but this does look really nice with the yarn. So I got some nice yellow beads, and they are looking way brighter yellow on the camera than they are that I'm seeing. So we'll see how that shows up when it goes to the computer. But so they're not quite as bright yellow, but they are kind of a golden yellow, which I think would look really nice with the yarn. And so I've got the plans for the shawl now for my mother-in-law. I just need to start it. As soon as I finish with the rice fields, the brioche shawl, I will jump to working on that one. Speaking of shawls, this isn't the what I'm stashing section, doesn't really go, but whatever, I hope you'll forgive me. Remember, if you've been watching the podcast, the green shawl that I made with beads that turned out to be a flower motif that was upside down, and I got mad at it, and I needed to be in timeout. Well, since that was done out of my Isolde yarn, and I don't have any other samples in Isolde, I brought it with me. And of course, a lot of people really liked the shawl, and they were kind of disappointed when I told them the pattern was still in development and not available. And it's been a couple of months. I think it was back in March that happened. So it's been a couple of months. I think I am done being mad at the shawl. So it's time to rework that one. So flip the flower motifs around. I will have to rework the border because I had it based on the ending of that flower motif. I kind of continued and expanded that out. So I'll have to rework the border. And I also think I want to make a bigger size option. So I'll probably have 2 size options for it because I only used about half a skein of the lace weight yarn. So the size, it's kind of the smaller size that I already made, just with the flowers right side up. And then I will do a bigger size, so I'll probably need to add in like another section based on the construction of the shawl. I think I'll probably have to do another increase round and then another section of the shawl. So a little bit of back to the drawing board and updating and expanding it, and then starting to knit that one. So I've got a couple of shawls that are planned to go on the needles as soon as Rice Fields gets done, and as soon as I make sure that I do have knitting time with the kittens around. By the way, Eva is now curled up in my lap. It looks like it is potentially nap time. But a little bit more to talk about, so we'll jump to the next section. So for what I've been reading and watching, I'll say the reading has been kind of on hold, just getting ready for Houston and then traveling. I haven't really had much time to sit down and read, but we have watched a few things. So we probably shouldn't have taken Luke, but we took Luke to go see Wonder Woman, mostly because we really wanted to see it. I wanted to see it. And it wasn't, I think there were probably a few scenes that potentially were a little more than Luke probably should have seen, but overall, I think it was okay. Anyway, so we went to see Wonder Woman. I really enjoyed it. I thought overall it was a good movie, a very good movie. There were probably things that I could nitpick about it, but I think that they did a really good job on it, and that will be one that ends up in our movie collection at home. Also, it had been a while since I'd been to see a movie in the theater. I had not realized how comfortable theater seating had gotten. In the theater we went to, they actually had like reclining chairs, like armchairs. They were super comfortable, and I think at one point in the movie Luke actually curled up, and I don't know if he fell asleep, but he definitely was getting comfortable. Anyway, so no idea that theater seating had gone that way. Apparently you do pay a little bit more, the ticket price, for that seating, but it was kind of nice. And the way the rows are really divided is, even if there's someone tall sitting in front of you, it really does not impede your view because they're spread apart. You have plenty of leg room. I mean, kick up the recliner and lean back. So it was a really comfortable movie-going experience. So later that week, so this was, I guess maybe it was the day after I filmed the podcast, because it was Friday. It was a Friday. So anyway, so then we went to go see, just Luke and I went to go see Cars 3. Luke is very much loves the Cars movies, so we wanted to take him to that one. And Jarrett was working, but he said go ahead and take Luke, and maybe he would take Luke and see it again another time. So we went to see that, and again, we went to a different theater, but I picked one of the options that had the comfortable reclining seating. And the other thing that I really like about that is when you can buy your tickets online and reserve your seats. So you pick out your seats in advance. And that way, especially for a movie that just opened, you don't have to go there hours beforehand and stand in line and wait to get a seat. Maybe you guys have seen way more movies than I have lately, and all of this is old hat to you, but like I said, it's been a while seeing a movie in the theater for me, so it was all a new experience, but I really loved that buying the tickets early in advance online and picking the seating and then just showing up about 5 minutes before the movie started. It helps with Luke that he's not kind of confined to one space, since he's very, very active. So it helped him a lot, I think, because he didn't have to sit there for a very long time before the movie started. There was probably like a teenage girl next to me who had brought a blanket, and I mean, she looked like she was really pretty much at home, getting comfortable watching the movie. Anyway, so that movie, really good. The story was actually a really awesome story. And I think it kind of brought a lot of things full circle, especially compared to the first movie. There were a lot of things parallel, kind of what happened to Lightning McQueen paralleled what happened to Doc. So I thought that the writing for the movie was really well done. there's one scene where Lightning McQueen has a really bad accident. And so if you have a younger kid, especially if they're really attached to Lightning McQueen, that might be a hard scene to watch. But this is a spoiler, but so if you really don't want to hear it, then skip ahead about 15 seconds. But I think it's important to know, especially if you do have a small child. Yes, he's in a very bad accident, but he turns out okay. At least physically okay. And basically the movie is, how does he come back after a crash like that? Anyway, so I enjoyed that, and that also will be a movie that ends up in our collection, and who knows how many times I will get to see it. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen the other Cars movies. But anyway, so we watched that. And then when we were in Houston, like I said, we were at my husband's aunt's house, and I think it was Friday night, we watched A Dog's Purpose. Oh gosh, I hadn't seen it before, and I cried. Oh, I don't know if you've seen it, but it was definitely a tearjerker of a movie. And I hadn't picked it out. I just sat down. I didn't even know what we were watching. The movie started, and that's what it was. So anyway, I wasn't really prepared to cry, but definitely lots of tears shed. The next night we actually watched the first Harry Potter movie. So like I said, it was kind of a little bit of a Harry Potter weekend for me. Which crazily, if you're a Harry Potter fan, you probably know this, the 20th anniversary of the first book. Can't believe that it's been that long that Harry Potter has been in, basically out in the world. So anyway, so got to see that, and Luke watched it, so he finally got to see the first Harry Potter movie. And then the next night we watched Hidden Figures. So I was doing a little bit of work on the computer, and so I was not completely sitting down to watch the movie. So there were probably a few things that I missed, but overall I also really enjoyed that movie. So quite a few movies in my viewing experiences lately. Still have not watched Beauty and the Beast. Mostly because that's a movie that I really want to sit down and give my undivided attention. And I don't even know if I want to knit during it. That I may just really want to focus on the movie. And I haven't wanted to sit down and not knit, and so I haven't watched it. But now that we've got the kittens, I think probably I will watch it with a kitten or two in my lap. Or maybe Sam, like I said, making sure to give Sam attention. So maybe that's something to watch with a kitten in the lap. Yeah, that's what I have been watching lately. Hopefully we'll get more time to read in the upcoming weeks. So if you are watching this the day it comes out or the very next day, so the 29th or 30th of June, you have until the end of the day on June 30th to post your finished object for the second quarter knit along. We've got some gorgeous two or more color shawls in the FO thread already. So again, got until the end of the day on June 30th to post that, and then on July 1st I will do the drawing for the prize, and I didn't grab them to show you, but it's the 2 skeins of Ley Lines yarn from Saffroni Skies. Really gorgeous yarn that it's going to be hard for me to send away, but I think that whoever wins will really enjoy it. So again, make sure you get that in. And then the third quarter will start on July 1st. So July, August, and September will be that quarter. And I'm looking at the results of the votes. And although there were votes on multiple themes, the one that got the most votes, 62%, was a pattern inspired by or named after a fairy tale. So that is going to be the theme of the third quarter's knit along. It is a little more challenging to find a project that is based on a theme on a name. because there's not really an easy way to search that in Ravelry. So what you might do if you're trying to find a project is if you have a favorite fairy tale, like my favorite is Beauty and the Beast, you might actually just try typing that into the search bar in Ravelry and kind of see what comes up. And you know, maybe think of some fairy tales that you like, that might help. I think I may go ahead and start a bundle in the podcast group on Ravelry with some pattern suggestions. There've already been a couple of suggestions in the voting thread because it looked early on like that was going to be the theme, so people have already been kind of looking around for some pattern ideas. I did get a couple of questions about how to define a fairy tale. I'm going to go very traditional with this, that it is going to be something that really is labeled as a fairy tale. It can be from any culture. It doesn't have to be like the big ones that you think of, like Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty, and those. It could be, you know, a Russian fairy tale. But if it is found kind of in a collection of books of fairy tales, we'll call it okay for the theme. I know technically you could try to count other things as fairy tales, but we're going to try to at least narrow it down a little bit to the more traditional definition of fairy tale. But what's not narrowed down is the type of project to do. So normally the knit-alongs are all about shawls, but for this quarter, I thought we would take a little bit of a break. If you want to do a shawl, that is totally okay. But if you would prefer to do something else, then we're going to open up this knit-along to be pretty much any project. And I said any accessory project, but somebody found a really neat blanket pattern and with a castle on it. So I thought that was really nice. So you know what? Let's just do anything with a fairy tale theme. So if you really want to do a sweater, you can go ahead and do a sweater. I probably will stick to an accessory, maybe another shawl. I've got 2 other shawls planned, so maybe I'll try to find something else just to get a little bit of variety for what I'm doing. But anyway, so there it is. Pretty much anything, shawl or not, that is inspired by or named after a fairy tale. So start thinking about what you want to make. Don't cast on until July 1st. And then I will also be thinking about the prize for the quarter. Since it is fairy tales, I will probably get some type of prize that has to do with that theme, whether it be yarn that is named after fairy tales, or again, the Saffroni Skies that's also up at the Knitting Fairy locally. She does all these little mini skeins and calls them fairy tales. So potentially there could be some mini skeins. I'll kind of look around and see what I can find for the prize for this coming quarter's knit along. So anyway, think about what you might want to make. Don't cast on until July 1st, and I'm looking forward to seeing those projects come along. And also, don't forget to post if you haven't already, if you finish something for the second quarter knit along. Thank you so very much for watching this podcast episode. I really appreciate that you spend time with me every other week. I am going to be posting a thread on the Ravelry group for discussion for the podcast. I really enjoy getting to actually talk back and forth with you guys rather than just feeling like I'm talking at you each week. So please go over to Ravelry and join in the discussion on that thread. And then if you are watching this on YouTube, if you liked the episode, if you could hit the thumbs up video, or thumbs up underneath the video, I really appreciate that. And if you haven't already subscribed, do that, whether that be on iTunes or YouTube. That's mostly where the podcast can be found. Show notes are located on the podcast website, and I will have links to everything that I have talked about in this podcast episode. And until next time, 2 weeks from now, I hope you have a really wonderful knitting and in summer, and I will see you later. Happy knitting!